All right. Hello, everybody. Welcome to the first episode of the $1 genre debrief podcast. You may know me. My name is AJ. I'm the director and sort of project leader for $1 genre. And I thought I would do a little debrief podcast for each of the short films this one's going out free. If you're listening to this on YouTube, this one's going out free. If this does well, I'm probably going to make subsequent ones an exclusive for Patreon for the higher up tiers than $1 to try and figure out how to squeeze a little more money out of everyone instead of just $1, which is also great. So, I don't feel like I need to explain what $1 genre is because you're already here. So this is going to be our episode discussing Romantic Getaway, our first short film for January. And I'm here with Josh, my friend Josh, who played the character Brains. I played the character Dumbass. Hello, Josh.
Hello. And it's glad to hear that I'm actually the clickbait.
Yeah.
For this episode.
Right.
You know, you always get the high tier guest for the first free one to buy people in. You know, so I imagine you've got like Jeremy and Richard lined up for the next year to work your way down.
Yeah, absolutely. So I thought what we could do, Josh, who shows up very briefly in the film where, spoilers, I shoot him in the head, actually turned up to set not knowing anything. He hadn't read the script. No. He just knew what he was supposed to do. And it's not like I sent you like like these are the only pages you read. I sent you the whole thing. You just didn't.
Yeah, I didn't read it. I probably would have read it if you only sent me the page I was on.
Yeah. So, where I guess I don't have too much of a structure plan. I've got some questions people asked on the $1 genre Discord, but I thought first of all I could sort of go over the process of how I landed on this idea, and you can interrupt me and ask me questions if you see fit.
Great.
Cool.
How are you?
I'm all right. How are you?
Good.
We're recording this in my loft, which is very cramped at the moment because there's an air conditioner in it, and ironically, it's actually a pretty cold day today.
Yeah.
And so
and he's got it on full blast. So I'm so confused. So if you hear the... That's that.
It sounds more like...
Whoa, it sounds like an airbed.
Cool. So the project starts. I announce $1 genre, and everyone's making the same joke. Everyone's going, "Oh my god, we're gonna tell you to make a porno." Which, sure, you can tell me to do that, and I'll figure out a way to.
And
do
you
it.
were hoping for it. You were,
well, the thing
you
is,
were like, finally.
The thing is, for people who don't know, the sort of I got to be very careful about how I word this. The not inspiration, but I'm no stranger to making genre short films because I run and used to compete in a New Zealand short film competition called 48 Hours, which is based around getting a genre you're not expecting and then making a film in 48 hours. I think this is legally distinct enough that I'm not going to lose my job because it's not like they own the concept of genre. But in saying all of this, and providing that context, I think, is important because, one, I already made a porno. I made for 48 hours during lockdown. Instead of helping them run it, I competed and made a film about someone whose laptop gets infected with porn.
Yes.
And, like, what's annoying is that would be the movie I would make if people suggested porn for $1 genre. That, like, I've already made the $1 genre porn movie, you know? Maybe I'll link that in the show notes or something like that for people to check out if they want it, because it's pretty similar quality. The sound isn't quite as good as I wish it was.
I guess the thing for me that I thought when I thought of $1 genre, I was like, oh yeah, he'll get told to, like, make a romance, which he did. Oh, no, it was a heist film, right? Yeah. Sorry, it's called...
Romantic Getaway.
We got already. But man, I was like shocked by the suggestions. Like, I mean, I won't spoil what the next one is, but you know, like some of the suggestions for next month were good. Like, I mean, the only one I can think of off the top of my head was my one, which was a Jane Austen adaptation. You know, it wasn't like action and stuff. It was actually like,
yeah.
You know, or like you said, like Soviet propaganda or something like that, like cool stuff that's actually not just like.
Well, so the allure of the whole project is, I think for me especially, restriction breeds creativity, and I enjoy writing something to a brief more than I do just having write anything put in front of me. I like being told you have to write this, and the thing with and we'll get to what next month, well, what this month, what February genre is in a bit, because it is public information now. You didn't have to hide it.
Look, this is in the spirit of clickbait, you know. You've got to watch till the end, you know, after the credits.
So surprisingly, when the poll actually came around, no one suggested porn. And this is if you're part of both the $1 genre Discord, the Patreon Discord, and also if you are of any knowledge of who I am as a creator with Cult Pop Show and the Cult Pop Show podcast.
Never heard of it.
My podcast with many a patron and listener with $1 genre. There's a big inside joke on there about how I quote unquote don't understand heist movies. Sorry, I'm talking about this inside joke in such a critical way.
That was my first thought when I heard heist. I was like, the smart ass who I don't know who suggested it, but they were clearly like, oh, AJ doesn't understand heist films, now he's got to make one. Yeah,
exactly. And that immediately got off to a strong lead in the vote, and it is because of this whole thing about AJ doesn't understand heist movies. And if you're wondering what exactly that means, this comes from a long-standing, long inside joke in the podcast, which is basically in the Cult Pop podcast, I should say, which is basically, I think that it's bad writing to be like, but surprise, the good guy had a trick up his sleeve. You can do that with the villain. I think it's dumb to do that with the hero. And basically, like, a genre which is built around, like, withholding information from the audience, I often find myself confused. And, like the movie that made me realize this was Logan Lucky, where, like, spoilers, the day is saved because you weren't told something that Channing Tatum did off screen. And it's like, well, that's not very compelling to me. I don't understand why this is supposed to be exciting because I didn't see him do it. It's just a Deus Ex Machina. Anyway, this is just the context for why, if you're wondering why heist movie got off to such a strong lead, was because of that. And so when it won, immediately my mind goes to that place, to let's make a funny, like, let's give the people what they want and make a heist movie that is overtly complicated, that embraces what I consider the shortcomings of the genre and all this sort of thing. Like, let's make what people are wanting me to make because they voted for heist movie. And the original idea I came up with was essentially, it was going to be like a snapshot from a larger heist movie where the good guy and the bad guy are facing off in the bank vault or something like that. And one of them keeps being like, ha ha ha, but you didn't realize I did this ahead of time. And then the other one goes, no, because I knew you would do that, so I did this ahead of time. And basically playing on the joke that I think heist movie climaxes are based around withheld information and Deus Ex Machinas. And I got pretty far into that. I also got another idea. I didn't actually get that far into that, but I wrote that down, I should say. Another idea I had was going to be like the planning stage of a heist movie, where the crooks are stood around and the leader is going through what the plan is, and you cut to that happening. And I wanted to make a joke out of like, wait, so is the stuff we're seeing on screen like theoretically what's going to happen, or is it what's actually happening? And I don't know how I'd play that within the context of the narrative itself, but basically the idea that the plan is confusing and the people who are going to be doing this heist don't understand what's being talked about.
So the premise is the people in the heist movie also don't understand what a heist movie is.
Precisely. Yeah. That's great. Yeah,
and
that's a good way to put it.
Playing the main character.
Yeah.
Historically don't understand heist movies.
Yeah. So these are some of the ideas I came up with initially. I have a flatmate who works at a costume store, and so started planning, like, spitballing an idea around trying to steal a costume from a costume store, or needing a certain costume. I can't remember what that idea was completely, but something about a costume store, because heist has been a genre in 48 Hours, and I always thought if I ever got it, if I ever got Heist in 48 hours, I would have to boil it down to the base component for it to qualify for a heist movie. And I think it's not the rules, it's not the structure. I think for something to be arguably a heist movie, a theft has to be at the center of the story, right? And I always thought if I ever got heist movie, I would just do that. I would go, no, it's a story about a theft, and
it's
then
a theft movie.
It's a theft movie, and think about it from that perspective. But so that was another sort of influence I was thinking of. But when I had these two ideas, they were sort of like meta breakdowns of what a heist movie is as a genre. I was just like, has this not been done? Is this not the joke? Like Rick and Morty did a heist episode a couple of years ago, and it was essentially this joke. Like, is this feels like the first idea you come up with when you're trying to think of a heist, like an original idea on a heist movie, is one that makes fun of the genre. And so I was like, I kind of don't want to do that. I kind of don't want to just be like, yep, it's the heist movie where they make fun of heist tropes, you know? And so I started to think more and more, and I thought, like, what do I like visually? What do I think would look good on film? And I thought of like balaclavas, like bank robbers, and how it would be cool to have, like, because you don't see that every day, so like have bank robber characters. And in terms of, I was trying to think of a location, and I was like, well, it could be a getaway, and therefore it's a car.
You know what would have been great is if you wore Prime Minister masks instead of President masks. That would have been funny. Anyway.
That's good. Yeah,
maybe next time.
next time heist wins the genre poll. And yeah, and I landed on Getaway, and then I was like, what else do I like? And at some point, I really fell in love with the idea of you don't see any of the main characters' faces, because two of them are wearing balaclavas, and one of them is a hostage with a bag over their head, and that led to, what's the point of the hostage? What if the hostage provides something that they can't provide for each other? Oh, they should be married. They should be a Bonnie and Clyde, kind of like wannabe Bonnie and Clyde. Ipso facto, it all kind of played out from there, and you do see everyone's faces in the end, but I like that.
Honestly, before you said that, I was like, wait, did we not actually see anyone's face? Because I just thought, I probably didn't realize, because I know what they look like anyway.
You do see everyone's face by the end, but the first, like, majority of the film, you don't see, like, when everyone's in the car, you don't see anyone's full face. And I came up with your character, Brains, because I realized I needed Dumbass, who's my character, to show Honey, who's Emily's character. He needed to prove his devotion to her and solve their marital problems. And what better way to do that than to kill your third party member? I should go over the cast as well, actually. But before we do that, like, that was the idea. I wrote it pretty fast. I was pretty happy with it pretty early on. I made virtually no changes to the script after I wrote it the first time. I think I took out some lines here and there. I didn't realize that there was a Bonnie and Clyde parallel till I was writing it, and then was like, I should definitely mention Bonnie and Clyde. And I feel quite good about the way it was mentioned, that Emily's character Honey is like, do you think that's the first time you hear of Bonnie and Clyde, is do you think Bonnie and Clyde would have cared about their hostages? And it's like, I like that, because that tells you they've talked about, they see themselves and have discussed before about how they see themselves as a regular Bonnie and Clyde.
Have you seen, I assume Bonnie and Clyde is actually a movie.
They're real. They're real people. There is a movie as well. Okay. Haven't seen the movie.
When I heard Emily mention that, I was like, I've never even seen Bonnie and Clyde. If it's a movie, I haven't seen it, and I was like,
they were a real life,
such a cultural touchstone.
Exactly. They're a real life crime, like, bank robbing duo, and like, oh god, I want to say the 20s, the 30s, maybe.
And then they crash a car into water or something.
Yeah, they died horrible deaths.
As all criminals do.
Yeah. And
I was gonna say should. No.
And the movie stars what are their names? The movie stars the people that accidentally read out La La Land instead of Moonlight for the Oscars. And those are Bonnie and they're Bonnie and Clyde.
Oh,
Warren Beatty and God, I gotta look it up now.
Man,
Bonnie and Clyde movie. But yeah, apparently very pioneering for editing.
Wow.
I don't know why we're talking about this.
Historically, they always said Clyde and Bonnie on set.
Where's the fucking cast? Sorry. I'm not going to edit this much. Warren Beatty and Faye Dunaway are Bonnie and Clyde.
Wow.
Or Clyde and Bonnie, I should say. So, do you have any questions so far that you think might echo what the audience, what the listeners are maybe wanting to hear?
What? So I feel like we obviously talked about 24 hours. 48 Hours being the crime show. 48 Hours being, that's a deep cut there. 48 Hours being, the film festival. I feel like, it's an ace up your sleeve in many ways, because obviously you know how to make a film under pressure and under time constraints. But also, I feel like when you look at something like Heist, you've seen the lowest common denominator.
Yes.
Of any version of a heist short film could be from
Yeah, so to clarify once again, because I run the competition in Christchurch, I have to watch about 70 to 100 short films a year. And by short films, some of them are quality that you would expect from a professional shoot. A lot of them aren't, and that's cool for the
notable filmmakers made their I'm
not saying that that non-professional films are bad. I mean, the film we made wasn't very professional, but more so that I do see the dregs of the dregs, and again that idea of doing a heist movie that's a parody of heist movies. I've seen that done, and also I've just seen it done normally. I've seen a normal heist movie be made in 48 hours, and again it's that same thing where it's who wants to watch this? Anyone can do this.
I'd kind of liken it to a teacher naming their own child.
Right.
It's no, I can't do that. I know a person with that name. I've seen a short film do that.
Right.
Bad,
I get what you mean. Yeah. Cool. So I thought I'll go over the casting process. So I cast myself as dumbass because I was
you're a dumbass.
Because I'm a dumbass. No, but I imagine I will probably play a significant to blatantly the main character role in all of these, just because I'm not paying anyone.
And
I
you're
can't
the best
pay
actor
anyone.
you know. So.
I'm not necessarily the best actor I know, but I want to take the weight of the project, because it wouldn't be fair.
The weight
for
of fame.
No, the weight, the bulk load of work. I more mean. So I cast myself as that. And my friend Emily, I was like, "Hey, do you want to play my wife in something?" Which is very funny
in real life,
because we're not married in real life, and we've been friends. She's probably one of my oldest friends. We've been friends since we were
she's actually 82.
We've been friends since we were 7 or 8. And then I cast my friend Bree as the Brianna McZant, I should say, because she's a real full-on actress, unlike me. She cast her as Caroline, the hostage, and Brains was actually the last character to cast, and I was thinking of people I know who could be keen, and I thought, how funny. It's almost very Wes Anderson-y to have this person I look up to be this sort of nerdy, bespectacled bald dude, right?
Yeah.
With full respect to
and
you,
couldn't
obviously.
find one, so then you just called me.
I think it's funny that you kind of just look like a Kiwi dad in the film, and we talk you up so much, and then you end up looking just like a Kiwi dad. I think is a great visual joke.
I showed up in my activewear shorts.
Yeah.
And I brought all these clothes. I was like, "What do you want me to wear?" And you're like, "Oh, that's good." And
that's good.
Go! I didn't need to drive all the way home to get clothes.
Well, and there was some thought they went into Brains, because initially it was should Brains be someone older than me?
Some brains went into Brains. You could say.
Should Brains be someone who's older than me? Should Brains be someone who's big and stocky? But I was like, no, because your character is the guy at the desk, the man behind the desk.
Yeah.
So you would be kind of more nerdy looking.
I was probably bankroll. Wow, how funny, bankrolling the bankroll, but I was the boss.
Yeah, exactly.
The brains of the operation. I didn't realize until the day. I was like, that's what I was like. Is this a zombie film? Why am I called Brains?
I did toy with when my character shoots you, cutting to a rock and brains splatter against it. But I was like, how am I gonna do that?
Yeah,
I don't know how to make brains.
Yeah.
So, in terms of fun stories that happened on set, we filmed all the stuff in the car first. We filmed everyone's shots in one go, racing against a draining camera battery, which ended up being quite the struggle the whole time. And
shout out Canon.
Yeah, the funnest part for me, or the funniest part for me, was it's very easy to think that I would do this because I have a big ego or because I thought it would be funny. But just in writing the characters, Emily, who played Honey, ends up having more like "I love you so much" kind of lines. And we were going through them and I was like feeding her the lines as she's actually driving up and down the street. And in between, I've got it on camera because we just filmed like takes at a time, her just between talking about how much she loves me, just going like, "You're a real piece of shit, AJ." Because it's like I wanted to write authentic characters. I'm sorry that I had to play
I'm sure
one.
some filmmaker out there has made a film where like some school kids are making a film and the guy casts a girl he likes.
Yeah.
I
mean, I don't. Me and Emily are just friends.
No, well, yeah.
Yeah. So.
And to take it back to me, and it's a bit of like art imitating life that you do look up to me quite deeply. So
yeah.
It's good that you could bring that into the film.
Yeah, exactly. So I'm gonna go on the $1 genre Discord, which you should be in if you're a patron of ours, because that's where a lot of the chat happens. And I asked in there if anyone had any questions they wanted to ask or anything that they wanted me to answer. And so I thought I'd talk about a few things from there. Okay, so Brento Man on the $1 genre Discord says, the stuff outside the car was really beautifully shot and coloured. I know it's not a question, but I was struck by it. I mean, it was a beautiful day that we shot. The stuff after your scene where we let the final scene of the film where we let Caroline go was like beautiful golden hour and
real wedding day vibes.
Yeah. Brianna has this gorgeous golden hair that just she was glowing. I was like setting up the shot and I was just like, hey, you look stunning right now. Like you look beautiful. Yeah. And so that was that looked really good in the raw footage before the color grade. And of all the shots have sort of the same level of desaturation to them, except for that one, which I decreased the desaturation a little bit. I resaturated it a little bit to try and, it's the end of the story. It's all gold. It's all wonderful.
Because they got away with the money.
Yeah, exactly. And then when they drive off abruptly, it cuts back to that more grayer color palette again. So yeah, so Richard from Cult Popture, my co-host on Cult Popture, best friend, replied to Brett's
backbone
comment,
of your life. You'd say throwback there.
He said, "Yeah, I want to hear more about the color grade. It was so inspired." And he said this because Richard's the one who told me I should desaturate the shit out of it. Basically, the color grade was actually Richard's idea. I never think to desaturate. I always think to saturate. I always like bright Tim Burton-esque colours as opposed to desaturated Tim Burton-esque colours. And I guess, because to me, and I'm not the biggest colour grade expert, but to me, if you're desaturating, things are going to look more unedited. But I learnt through doing this that you just need to crush the blacks and all sorts of things. And then once you do that, something can still look three-dimensional despite being desaturated color palette. And above all else, this actually solved a couple of problems with the footage, including the light tone changing and the fact that a lot of the outside is overexposed, which is pretty normal for this sort of thing, but it certainly took attention away from it. And I think it looks really great, especially with how bright the outside stuff is, like with you and with the end scene. To desaturate that gives it this really stylistic look, which I thought really worked.
And as you drained the life out of me, you drained
so
the
too
color.
did I drain the color out of.
It is funny knowing that I was sitting in my car the whole time, because I got there a lot earlier than we
Then-
started filming.
Yeah,
And I was like watching the film. I'm just looking in the background to see like we're on the same road that you like did a loop back and forth on that you were.
yeah. Tim Tabor123 says, one thing I'm always curious about with any creator is their artistic inspirations. What previous works and experiences informed your choices on this project? I mean, if you've seen any of my short films before outside of $1 genre, you'll know I'm very like character, emotional journey kind of based. That's what I'm most interested in, and I think what I'm best writing at. And I've learnt through making some really boring short films that are just people talking about their emotions that you've got to combine that emotional journey with an exciting external journey. And so it was like a Getaway is a cool setting for a bank robbery getaway. Is a cool setting for a short film, whatever it's about. How can I add emotional stakes to that? In terms of inspirations, nothing specifically comes to mind. Nothing that I'm obvious about anyway. I certainly didn't like look at certain things I like and was like, I want to replicate that. I told Brianna...
And you did go out and rob a few Westpacks.
Yeah.
You know, get in the headspace.
I told Brianna that she should be playing Aubrey Plaza, was my direction for her character, and she said, who's Aubrey Plaza? Which I thought was pretty funny. So she still did pretty well for someone who'd never heard of that very famous actress. Shade thrown. I mean... I guess I just like, as I say, I like emotional journeys. And I've done this before in something. One thing I like is giving characters an emotional journey, but then giving another character in the same scene zero. Because when, at the end of the film, my character gives Brianna $20 and says, thank you, Caroline. And it's supposed to be like, you've changed our life, you've saved our marriage. And my direction for Brianna there was like, we've been through an emotional transformation for us. For you, this is the stupidest shit you've ever had to put up with in your life. Like, this is stupid. As soon as Honey and Dumbass drive away, the cops are going to catch them. You know, like, they have lived through an emotional transformation that means nothing to Brianna's character, Caroline. And so I like that as well, of like juxtaposing this very emotional journey that two characters have been on and then give the other character
you just kidnapped me.
Leave me alone. Gives her $20, which, fun fact, in the script was a wad of cash, but I couldn't get a wad of cash. and then was like, would it not be funnier if it was just a single $20 note? You know? Yeah.
That is actually good. That's great.
Scotty doesn't know, says, I always love hearing about happy accidents in films. Do you have anything unexpected happen that made the cut?
Massive car crash.
I mean, beyond the $20 note thing having to be changed, this didn't lead to anything good, but the storyboard blew away before we got to the location. We stopped at a petrol station so that I could get the $20 note, and a bunch of the scripts fell out of the car, and then the storyboard I'd meticulously designed also flew away.
That could be like a, bit of like filmmaking history. You know, imagine if like the Star Wars storyboard.
Right.
You know, like imagine in 30 years, it's like, I've got the romantic getaway storyboard.
But in terms of happy accidents, the only things I can think of is like it was quite a rushed and very hot set to try and film in, and
steamy
inside that car. And I'm really proud of how everything's in focus. The sound is okay. The wide shot, which you only see a couple of times, worked out way better than I thought it would. It's not necessarily a happy accident, more just I'm so stoked that nothing really went wrong with the footage. And so that's always a plus.
One thing I wondered, this is super nerdy, but what millimeter lens were you using?
I've got the camera over here.
Whoa.
What, you tell me, what is this? 55?
I can confirm it's 18 to 55. Because I was like, man, that's a tight shot in the car. Like,
yes, very tight. And I'm not a camera guy and don't know much about cameras at all. And so it was like, we're filming it with my camera. Because one thing I was like, I want to do this project. I don't want to have to worry about my friend with a better camera coming in to film it, which I'm probably actually gonna do for some future films. But
Yeah.
like with this, it was like there's just no room for anyone else. If anyone's wondering how we got that wide shot, I put Velcro command strips to the bottom of the camera and the dashboard of the car and stuck it to it, and it barely stuck to it, but enough to get the 3 or 4
was it like
shots.
inside the car?
Yeah.
Oh, I actually have a thing you probably could have used.
Oh, yeah.
To like actually mount it outside the car.
Well, then we'd get the reflection from the window. I like how it looks
Yeah,
anyway.
yeah.
But yeah, so that's in terms of like any happy accidents or anything. Richard says, I want to know what you learnt for next time, and then next time tell us how you put those lessons into practice. I don't know if... So there's one lesson I learned that I don't know if I'm going to implement because I've already got the idea for the next film, and I don't think it's an applicable lesson. But one thing was, watching it back, I was like, I don't know if this is very funny. I think it's a funny idea in general, a funny concept, but I wish I'd taken time to put in more individual jokes and deliveries and one-liners or reactions. I think it's like, if you tell someone the premise of the film, that's a joke. And they go, oh, that's pretty charming and funny. But then the actual film doesn't actually have that many laugh-out-loud moments in it. I think when I shoot you, that's very funny. And I think it's a great payoff. And I think if anyone's wondering how I did that, I downloaded a muzzle flash green screen animation for the fake gun, which, if you could see in real life, is hilariously way too small to be a real gun. And I downloaded a blood splatter.
No live rounds.
No, exactly.
Very intentionally.
And when I shot you, you sort of pretended to react, and I sped up your reaction so it looks a little bit like involuntary. And you actually, if you watch it, you actually only see about a split second of you getting hit. It's very quick because I didn't want to have people dwell
I got
on it.
is it barley seeds? Is that what the grass was?
Yeah.
So many of those dang seeds in my shoes. I'd spend like half an hour the next day with tweezers, like getting them out of the shoes because they were stabbing my feet.
So that's one lesson I want to learn when I do a comedy next, is to try and put more individual jokes, and a lot of these will be comedies.
Which next month is.
No,
it's
not.
No.
One big lesson I learned is like, and I already knew this, and I don't know why I didn't. Well, I mean, it was because we were in the car, but like, so much better to have a dedicated camera guy on set so that I don't have to worry about setting everything up, because that was a nightmare, and one of the reasons why we went way over time and ran out of battery and stuff is because I was operating everything. I think I'm more than capable of directing while acting. Not that I have to direct all of these either, I should say. That's not necessarily.
And he has a friend who's a photographer sitting in his car waiting for you.
Yeah, so I'm probably gonna. I don't think I'll individually. I don't think I'll be DOP on many more of these projects. So that's the biggest lesson that I relearned, was to do that, and also one thing I relearned again when editing, talking about the editing process, was when I was balancing the audio. Everyone's at different volumes. The sound of the car is at a different volume, and a breakthrough I had was when I was like, no, what it needs to be is, the dialogue needs to be loud, and I move everything else around that anchor point of the dialogue being peaking at -20 or whatever. So that was what, instead of like trying to balance everything as I went, I did the dialogue first, made sure everyone was nice and loud, and then I went back and did all the other balancing beneath the dialogue and made that loud, so that instead of it being a film at a quieter volume, the whole thing is at a louder volume. And that I think that turned out really well.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
Do we talk about the color grade? It looks really good.
69 Shades of Grey says, keen to hear about the writing process. Did you get feedback, workshop the concept? I mean, we've already talked about the writing process a bit, but in terms of feedback, I sent it to a couple of people. I had Emily read over it. Her main note was that I should also say I love you to her character, because in the original script I just hadn't written that for some reason. And I sent it to Richard, who Wow, did he? I don't know if he gave me too much feedback, more just beyond like, it feels like it all happens too fast, but I'm sure it won't in the film, and I don't think it does happen too fast.
It is a short film, Richard.
Yes, yeah.
It's kind of the point.
Yeah. And also worth noting, the original cut, one of my flatmates /
Famously 4 hours.
Elliot, who was going to probably be in the next short film I make for February, said that he felt that the footage in the car was too long. Like the scene in the car is too long, and I ended up taking out one line, but nothing else. And I think the reason for that is because when I wrote it, I envisioned it as a one location film that has like an epilogue that's in a second location. But because of the way it ended up timing out, it's like the last two scenes taking place outside the car make up enough of a fraction of the film that it does just now kind of feel like it's a film with one really long one scene at the start. So, yeah. And finally on Discord, Josh, you have asked, is Josh as hot in real life? And I'm here to tell you that yes, he is. Cool. Okay, so we'll probably cut it down there. So next month is cosmic horror as the genre that won, and while I don't think it's impossible to make a cosmic horror comedy, and again, I think the concept I've got is sort of a funny concept, I'm more interested in making it scary than I am making it funny. So, I mean, and that's essentially flexing the same muscle. So that's
lots of tentacles.
Yeah, lots of tentacles. So yeah, that's what we're doing next month or this month. And I hope you've enjoyed this. I am also going to put out a director's commentary of the film, which will also be part of this supposed next tier on Patreon. Probably $5, I think. So for $5 you get this podcast and a director's commentary.
$5 genre.
Yeah, well, $5 I'm interested in the process. So that'll be there. Or maybe, if people don't really care about it, I probably won't. But this is sort of an experiment in itself. On that director's commentary, I imagine I'll probably go over a lot of the same stuff I've got over here, but it'll be from a new perspective. But yeah, thank you for engaging in me in this conversation, Josh.
In all your years watching heist short films, have you ever seen one where it's all like the setup, like the heist part of the heist film, and they get to the bank and it's just closed?
No, I don't think I have.
That'd be great.
It's a good idea. I'll do that next time.
Yeah, do it next time. There we go.